Start the morning right with a cup of Vinyl Tap. Nothing beats the refreshing taste of a hot, warm mug of Vinyl Tap. Enjoy your podcast in liquid form today. Vinyl Tap. Enjoy responsibly.
2, 1.
Vinyl Tap.
Vinyl Tap.
I'm Jason.
I'm Jason.
I'm Jason.
And we just listened to Thank You Scientist, The Perils of Time Travel. I'm very excited to hear what everyone had to think about this one. Very excited. Beebs, let's throw you straight away.
So look, I'll be honest. This was I didn't write many notes. This was insane. There was so much going on. It was incredible. I loved it. I'm gonna have to struggle talking through this one because, like, there's so much really cool. Not necessarily complexity, just like really great shit going on. Lots of it all the time. It was amazing. It's a fucking great time.
Tim?
Okay, my general thoughts. Yep, it's pretty good. Very, very complex. Through composed rock. I like the complexity of each song, and it never does. There's a scary thing with prog sometimes, and that's that, like, we can go through so many changes that it's like, is this even the same song anymore? And like, why is this the same track on the album? Didn't reach that point with Thank You Scientists, The Perils of Time Travel. It avoided that peril of progressive rock in that it continued. It's like every song's written in rondo form, where like it just returns to this thing, and it's like, oh yeah, it's this song, and it feels like that we belong here. It never strays too far. That has ramifications down the line, but that's details that we'll get into later. I really enjoyed this album and would recommend it to anyone. I don't care if you'd hate it, if you don't like prog at all. Listen to it.
Yeah, I feel
I know you
like...
were very excited to show me this, Jason. So
yes.
And it's got a bit of backstory as well.
Maybe. It just kind of popped up on my Spotify discovery about 2 months ago, and I intentionally have withheld this from you until today, just so I could see your reaction while listening to it and just get your initial thoughts on it, and not just send it to you and talk about it after.
Yeah.
The thing I really like about it is it's not... it's got this really nice blend of prog rock and metal with this jazz fusion element in it.
Yeah.
And it's not as prominent in this as it is in their later albums, but it's still there, and it's just really, really well done.
So, yeah, Hello Saxophone later on in the album, just that jazz element really threw me. So, if you're a violinist, absolutely listen the shit out of this, because it's really, really cool what the violinist was doing. Kind of heaps of like folk stuff and like a little bit gypsy, and I was like, oh yeah, like this is, I can get having folk elements in prog, but having like slap bass that's so slap it's almost offensive. Oh,
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Like, who
So
came
hyper
up with that?
groovy. Yeah.
Right. And like they somehow, that first song, what is it, Grin? They,
Yeah.
oh, the way that they blend the genres, just, you know, prog is always moving, but
Their
it's so
transitions are something
seamless.
that are really, really...
Yeah.
like capture me. I think there's only one transition in the whole album that I'm not a fan of, and it's in like their most experimental song, so I'm going to be a bit more forgiving of it as well.
What song's that?
Which is the last one, Gemini, when they make a return back to the like kind of theme of the song after all the solos and whatnot. I feel like it's a little forced.
Really?
But
Yeah, I felt. Is this like towards the end of the song?
yeah.
Yeah, I felt. It wasn't the transition entirely that I had a problem with, but the start of the chorus doesn't match the energy that the solos had produced. So it doesn't sound like musically out of place, but as a ride, it has a strange progression, and it's like, well, shouldn't this be carrying what just happened? And I just kind of felt like it fell off a little bit.
Yeah, but other than that, all their transitions
Yes.
between the sections are phenomenal, and like even internally within sections, the way that they like, I think two really big strong points across the album are the texture and the rhythm, the way they use rhythm, because they go in and out of like rhythmic unison and then rhythmic complexity a lot, and they really use that to change how the same section feels, or to like indicate that it's a new section where everything is like rhythmically together.
Yep.
And it, like that appears across all the songs.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to achieve textural complexity, but changing rhythmic, how many lines there are, like it's as simple as that.
Yeah, and obviously with the amount of people they've got in the band, I think it's 7.
Right.
Like they've got guitarist, bassist, drummer, lead singer, violinist, and then 2 brass players, I think.
2. Right. Okay.
If you want to call sax brass, sure.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean it falls into a brass section in this.
I'll fight
me.
you.
Don't at me.
I'll fight you.
Sax players.
The way that they used the instrumentation as well was really, really nice. I think when you start to go into the realm of using different instruments, there's a fine line between having it for a gimmick kind of thing, where it's just like, oh, look, we've got a saxophone in here now, watch it play long notes, or really using the instrument to its strength and getting all the different effects. I can't remember. I think it's, again, my notes are a little bit shaky here. I think it's the 3rd song right at the end, Make Like a Tree. Yeah, Make Like a Tree. The saxophone right at the end is almost doing like I'm not sure exactly what the technique is, maybe a flutter tongue or something like that, and it happens if you're listening with headphones, it'll be in the left of the mix. And it gives this like really cool effective, I don't know, like when you've got one window down in the car and you're getting that kind of buffeting sound. And like that effect is really, really cool in saxophone, and I never really hear it outside of, you'll occasionally get it in jazz. Well, no, you get it all the time in jazz, occasionally in classical music. I wasn't expecting it here, and it's such a cool thing, and it's great that they've integrated it so well.
Yeah, the like I said, the jazz elements in here I think are more understated than what they are in their later albums, but they're still definitely there, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Tim, do you have a favorite song out of the ones we just listened to?
Ooh, that's a very tough question. I was a fan of all of them in some way. I really liked the rhythmic groove at the beginning of Make Like a Tree, and also the title, Make Like a Tree, brackets, Get Out. Fantastic.
On that, did either of you pick up that song is a lot of like little references to Back to the Future?
Yeah.
No?
Like including the title?
Yeah.
And then
Then there's
sample
the quote at the end, yeah.
sample at the end is from Back to the Future.
What the heck is a gigawatt?
Right,
Yeah.
there we go.
Gigawatt? The start of that song, it's rhythmically complex, but in a simple way. It's like there's 4 groups of 3, then 2 groups of 2. So it's da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. So it adds up to 16, but it's in this really cool way that just carries the song. I wish it went back to it towards the end of it, but it's prog. You do what you do. I can't expect things to go back to, that's the great thing with prog, that in every song there's bound to be something that you'll like.
Yeah. It just may never come back.
The rhythm in Grin, which also comes back in, I think it was Gemini, the last song, the da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-dun, da-dun, that just goes on throughout the whole thing, which is like a staple of metal, but you don't really hear it in things that sound jazzy in any way at all. So that was cool. You never hear a violin or a saxophone play that kind of rhythm, and it's interesting to hear that.
I think that was one of the coolest things for me across the album, is using other instruments that aren't like normally rock or prog, but using them for those sorts of rhythms.
Yeah.
That are like very classically rock, prog, metal rhythms.
I know that I'm probably the only one who will make this comparison because I'm a stinky weeb, but the idea of using extended instrumentation in metal kind of rhythms and progressions. This is anime music. Some of these songs, I was like, this is the intro to some shonen anime where there's this guy who beats the crap out of big ass robots or something, and like if you go back and listen to it again, it's like Naruto meets Death Note in some places because
No,
it's got that complexity and the like hype behind the drums and shit.
I would
so
definitely
rhythmic.
agree with you there. And okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that part of that effect, I feel there's two big things to it. There's the vocals, like the vocal.
Yeah, if he was
Quality.
Japanese, it'd just be full blown. Yeah.
Right. And it's like maybe it's just his actual tone of voice, or
Could be.
like the melodies were very I don't know, kind of. I don't know, really anime-esque, right? They're very like wafty and fun, and
Yes.
they never really get in the dirt. Is the best way to describe
Yeah,
it.
the complexity of this music is not to be found in the vocals.
Right.
They're simple melodies that carry through the chords very nicely. There's not much to think about with them, and that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
You can do complex melodies in prog, and it works out perfectly fine. But they didn't, and it's also fine.
And what I actually found that the vocal melodies, particularly in like the verses, were a little bit boring for me because they were so simple. And when the instrumentation peeled back to give that space, I was a little unsure about it. It was kind of like, oh, this isn't as good as when it breaks down. The verses and like the chorus sections, I guess if you have choruses in prog, the vocal line works really, really well because it floats over the top of really intense, I don't know, rhythm, instrumentation. I think I said there were two things, but anyway.
On a first listen through all of this, it took me maybe 5 or 6 times before I was even paying attention to the vocal melody. Most of my attention when I first listened to this was with the instrumentation and what was going on, especially in Leave the Light On. The guitar riff and like counter melody and kind of the not quite call and response, but like the turnarounds and stuff it does in that after the vocal lines are just way more attention grabbing than the melody itself. It has one of the greatest guitar solos ever at the end of Leave the Light On. It's so technically proficient, but also the musicianship and musicality of it is incredible. Like, it's not technicality for technicality's sake.
The technicality was like there. It was like there were like folk rhythms going on, and it was super, super cool. Folk rhythms, folk melodies going on. Like, and I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I reckon they've probably stolen like an Irish folk song or something and slapped it in, because. Or like some gypsy jazz melodies that have been stolen and just chucked in because like the solo is incredible, but also just all those little fill lines that they do are just so good. They're so incredible.
Yes, I believe you're about to
Where
make
is it?
a point for Make Like a Tree, Get Out.
I was. This song is definitely the most prog-like song of the album, and to be honest, I wasn't sure what I was going to call this.
Are you saying
album
that just because
before
there's a
I got to this
vibraphone in
song.
it?
Yes, of
And
course.
anything with a vibraphone is therefore 20% proggier?
No, you're
Why
absolutely
do you
on the
reckon
money.
that one's the most prog besides the vibraphone?
I think it's it's a combination of the tones and the melodies that they use. So up to that point, I don't know, the guitar was like
Too clean.
too clean, I guess.
It is a very clean
Yeah,
sounding
okay,
guitar
there's-
tone for prog.
And they don't have that weird like jump into fusion jazz, like the other songs, or like the weird kind of almost very folk-like metal stuff going on. It's just a sort of closer to metal rhythms and metal tones. The violin, the saxophone, they kind of don't play such a big part to the whole song structure. It's very much like clean sort of distortion, fat bass, heavy drums, and they're the main structure and bones of the whole song. Whereas all the other songs kind of feature the other instruments in as much more of a lead role.
I see. See, I'd argue that structurally, Gemini is the most prog song on the album. It's the most expansive, has the most like kind of different sections in it.
It's the longest by far.
It's the longest by a couple of minutes. All the others are about the same length. But I can see what you mean. So you think tonally, Make Like a Tree is more prog?
Yeah, I think tonally, Gemini, I agree, I thought was also quite prog-like, but it, I don't know, it has like a full jazz solo in there with,
True.
like
And that's-
gentle roads.
That's pretty
you
prog.
know. Oh, is it though?
Yeah, why not?
Like, to go into like an actual fusion jazz
Well,
kind
look,
of.
isn't prog just about change?
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
And what could be a bigger change than from this, like these face melty metal guitar solos to a fucking jazz? Like, sure, we could break out into Gregorian chant, and maybe they do that in albums further down the line, or maybe we'll do that. Don't steal our ideas. But it's a big ass change, the likes of which you don't see very often. Just cool.
So, Beebs, did you? I think because Tim, you said you told us your favorite already, right?
There isn't one.
There isn't one.
Yeah.
Beebs, do you have a favorite?
No, not really. Abandonship was amazing. I think, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really.
There was a riff at the start of that song that I thought really sounded like it came from The Police. It just sounded policey to me. I don't know why. I'll have to listen to it again.
There's comparing them to other bands. There's this section in Make Like a Tree that's like an instrumental section, and it just has the biggest Dream Theater sound to it. We spoke about it before, Tim. What did you say it was doing?
Oh, it was very Lydian. Very big fans of the Sharp 4 they are in this song. It's not very productive to think about this section in terms of chords because there's no triads going on, really. It's just lines. So thinking of it in scales is a lot, more useful.
And I think that it was that tonality combined with the rhythm of what they were doing.
Yes.
It just, to me at least, screamed Dream Theater.
Dream Theater are a fan of that shit.
Yeah, Abandonship got on that same line. The very beginning was kind of very Carnival-esque, and I really liked that. I'm a big fan of them too, and it was cool to sort of get that feeling from another band.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, look, in terms of a favorite song, I don't really have one, but big kudos to the violinist. Super, super cool.
Yeah.
Just some like using techniques which are kind of like when you dig in really hard with the bow, you get like a really dirty, gritty sound. Typically, most people want to avoid that unless you're playing some kind of obscure later music, or not obscure, but whatever. And to hear that get used in like rhythmic breakdowns and kind of really heavy rhythmic sections to get that grit, get that tone when the violin sound was pretty clean.
It fits really well.
Super cool, super cool.
So, overall thoughts on this as an album? Anyone? Personally, I think that it's really nice and complete.
Yeah.
It could maybe have had another one or two songs on it. But at the same time, I wouldn't want something added on that would detract from the quality of these.
There's nothing wrong with a half-hour album
No.
that we've been talking about for almost as long.
Yeah, and I almost I also think that thematically it's pretty there as well. I don't necessarily think track order is as important, except for maybe Grin being at the front with the sampled intro, which fun fact is from a kids short from the 50s about surviving a nuclear blast.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
I think backloading it with the longest song makes sense as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe the other three could have been in a different order and it would have been fine as well.
It works the way it is. It might work a different way as well.
Yeah. But yeah, as a whole album, I think it's very consistent and like amazing to listen to. I think that you should give it a go, even if you're not into prog. Click above to find out what else we've talked about in this theme.
Click above to see other things